My husband didn't just humiliate me at the company party. He exposed a truth I was never supposed to discover. Before I tell you what happened, let me say this clearly. If you're watching this, please subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and tell me in the comments where in the world you're watching from. Because what I'm about to share, no wife should ever have to live through. And if it happened to me, it can happen to anyone. I remember standing in front of the mirror, adjusting the thin gold necklace my husband, Nathan, had given me years ago. Back when he still looked at me like I mattered. Back when his eyes softened when they met mine instead of sliding past me like I was part of the wallpaper. That night was important. The annual company celebration. The night when everyone dressed to impress, networked like their lives depended on it, and pretended that success tasted sweeter when sipped from a crystal glass. I wanted to feel confident, present, like I still belonged beside him. I chose a black dress. Elegant, simple, timeless. A dress that used to make him smile. When I stepped into the living room, he barely looked up from his phone. "Is that what you're wearing?" he said, voice flat, eyes narrowing for a split second before returning to the glowing screen in his hands. My heartbeat stuttered. "Why? Is it bad?" He scoffed, adjusting his cufflinks. "No, Finn. I just thought you'd try a little harder. But whatever, we're late." Part of me cracked right then, small but sharp. Still, I forced a smile and followed him to the car. I told myself he was tired, stressed, overwhelmed with work. Excuses. I was so good at making them I could have written novels with them. When we arrived, the venue was breathtaking. High ceilings, chandeliers dripping like frozen waterfalls, a sea of perfectly groomed people laughing like their lives were flawless. And just like every year, Nathan fit right in. Night tried. The moment we stepped inside, people flocked to him. Coworkers, managers, clients. They shook his hand, clapped his back, praised his latest projects. "This is my wife, Emily," he said once, just once, gesturing vaguely in my direction without looking at me. I smiled politely. No one cared. No one even asked my name again. Nathan drifted away, carried by the crowd, and I followed a few steps behind like an obedient shadow. He didn't wait for me. He didn't look for me. He didn't even acknowledge I was struggling to keep up in heels. But that wasn't the worst part. Not even close. It happened when we reached the center of the room, where the lights were brightest, where everyone could see us. Someone complimented him on his recent success. And Nathan laughed, loud enough to turn heads. "It's been a great year," he said. "Though imagine how much smoother it would be if I didn't have to deal with her little disasters at home." Froze. The crowd chuckled. Some laughed. Some looked away awkwardly. He continued. "You guys have no idea. Today she almost made us late just because she couldn't decide what dress made her look less. You know." He gave me a look from head to toe. A slow, humiliating inspection. Then he smirked. I felt my face burn. My hands shook. Someone whispered, "Poor thing," not to comfort me but like gossip. Nathan leaned closer and murmured, "At least try to look like you belong here." The room spun. My throat tightened. Everyone was staring. And in that moment, I believed that was the worst humiliation I'd ever endure. I didn't know yet. It was only the beginning. I didn't leave the party that night. Not because I didn't want to, but because I couldn't move. My legs felt like they belonged to someone else. My face kept burning over and over, replaying Nathan's smirk, the way people laughed, the way I became the punchline of a man who once vowed to protect me. I stood near the side wall, pretending to study the floral arrangements, pretending I wasn't choking back tears. Pretending. Always pretending. I thought I was invisible, until a woman's voice appeared beside me. "You shouldn't let him talk to you that way." Turn. She was beautiful in a quiet, confident way. A woman who didn't need to shout to be noticed. Dark hair, soft eyes, a dress that didn't scream for attention but got it anyway. "I'm sorry," I murmured, clearing my throat. "Do I know you?" "No," she said gently. "But I know him. And more importantly, I know when a woman is being broken in public." Her words hit harder than I expected. I forced a weak smile. It's fine. He's just stressed. Is he? She asked, tilting her head. Or is he preparing you for something else? That sentence lingered in the air like a cold draft sliding under a door. What do you mean? Asked, voice suddenly small. She hesitated, like she was weighing whether to say anything. Then she said a name. A woman's name. A name I didn't recognize. You should look into her, she whispered. That's all I'm going to say. Before I could respond, she slipped away into the crowd, disappearing behind a cluster of laughing executives as if she had never existed at all. I stood frozen. A stranger knew something about my husband. Something I apparently didn't. Something serious enough that she came to warn me. The rest of the night blurred. Nathan continued socializing, beaming under the spotlight while avoiding me entirely. And I kept hearing that name over and over, echoing louder in my mind than music from the speakers. Who was she? Why did the woman say it like a secret? Why did it feel dangerous? When the event finally wrapped up, Nathan approached me with that same irritation he'd worn all night. Why are you standing here like a statue? Come on, we're leaving. I followed him silently. In the car, I stared out the window, watching city lights smear into long yellow lines. Nathan didn't say a word. Not an apology. Not an explanation. Nothing. Halfway home I finally whispered. Who is she? He stiffened. Who? I said the name. His reaction was instant. A tiny flinch in his jaw. A flicker of panic. Then a cold, dismissive laugh. Where did you hear that? I didn't answer. He gripped the steering wheel tighter. Emily, don't start imagining things. Tonight was stressful enough. But he didn't deny knowing her. He didn't deny anything at all. When we arrived home, he went straight to the guest room, something he'd been doing more often lately. He claimed he needed better sleep. Claimed he snored. Claimed anything but the truth. I went to our bedroom alone. Changed alone. Cried alone. And all through the night, the woman's warning repeated itself in my head, each time sharper. You should look into her. I didn't want to. I didn't want to be the kind of wife who looked through phones or searched names online. But when morning came, my hands moved before my heart could stop them. Nathan always left early. And he always left his work laptop at home. I sat on the edge of the bed, breathing hard, heart in my throat. The moment I typed that woman's name into the search bar, something popped up. Face. A workplace. Connection. And then, photo. One that stopped my breathing altogether. It wasn't explicit. It wasn't obviously romantic. But it was them. My husband. And the woman whose name had been whispered into my ear like a warning. Standing too close. Smiling too softly. Body language that said everything words didn't. My stomach twisted so violently I had to hold the edge of the desk. In that moment, humiliation from the party became something deeper. Something darker. Because suddenly I knew. Nathan didn't humiliate me by accident. He humiliated me because he needed me weakened. Distracted. Blind. And whatever he was hiding, I had only just touched the surface. Sleep didn't come that night. Not real sleep. It was the shallow, jittery kind where your mind stays awake even when your eyes close. Every time I drifted off, that picture appeared again. Nathan smiling at her in a way I hadn't seen in months. By morning, something inside me had shifted. I wasn't just hurt anymore. I was alert. Watching. Listening. And that was when I noticed something unusual. Nathan's suit jacket, thrown carelessly over the dining room chair, had a buzzing sound coming from its pocket. His phone. He had forgotten it. He never forgot his phone. Never. Curiosity isn't the right word for what I felt. It was survival. A desperate need for truth. I moved toward the jacket like it was a bomb. My hands trembled when I reached into the pocket and pulled out the phone. The screen lit up with a notification preview. Message. From her. The same name the woman at the party had whispered to me. For a full 3 seconds my heart stopped beating. I didn't unlock his phone. I didn't need to. The preview alone was enough to crack the ground under my feet. It said, "Last night was perfect. I think she's starting to suspect." I sat down. Hard. Like my legs no longer belonged to me. I read it over and over, my eyes burning, my breath vanishing from my lungs. The room started spinning, and I had to grip the table to keep myself grounded. Perfect. What had been perfect? Her. Him. Both of them. And the worst part, they were talking about me. About how conveniently blind I'd been. How easily manipulated. As if I were not a wife, but an obstacle. Problem to be handled. Felt sick. My hands shook so violently I almost dropped the phone. Nathan had humiliated me publicly. Not out of impulse. Not because of stress. But because it served a purpose. To make me small. To make me insecure. To make me easier to push aside. By the time the shock settled, something colder replaced it. Something I didn't recognize in myself. Determination. I wasn't going to cry all day. I wasn't going to confront him without knowing everything. I was going to find out exactly who this woman was, what she meant to him, and why he wanted me weakened. So I opened my laptop again. But this time I didn't just search her name. I searched both their names together. And what I found made my blood run cold. They worked in the same department. They had traveled to the same conferences. They had been photographed together more than once. Not in compromising ways, but in familiar ones. Easy ones. Comfortable ones. One article from the company newsletter even mentioned them collaborating on a high-level internal restructuring project. Restructuring. The word hung in the air like a threat. Was I part of this restructuring? Was humiliating me just phase one? As I dug deeper, my mind kept replaying the woman's warning at the party. Is he preparing you for something else? Now I understood what she meant. Nathan was preparing me to accept less. Less respect. Less security. Less certainty. He was softening the ground before dropping the real bomb. Because when a husband begins destroying his wife's confidence publicly, there's always something he's hiding behind the curtain. And I was about to find out what it was. A sharp knock at the door jerked me out of my thoughts. Froze. Who would come to my house at this hour? When I opened the door, I found someone I absolutely did not expect. The same woman who had approached me at the party. She stood there with a tense, apologetic expression, as if she'd been debating for hours whether to come. "I'm sorry to show up unannounced," she said, breathless. "But I need to tell you something. Something your husband is trying very hard to keep from you." My heart stopped. Her eyes softened. And then she said, "You're in danger, Emily. Real danger." For a long moment, I just stared at her, unsure if I was still half dreaming from the sleepless night. Her words, "You're in danger, Emily. Real danger," echoed in my chest like a pulse that didn't belong to me. I stepped aside silently, letting her into the living room. She looked over her shoulder before entering, as if expecting Nathan to appear out of thin air. The paranoia in her movements frightened me. It told me she wasn't exaggerating. She wasn't here for gossip. She wasn't here out of pity. She was here because something serious was happening. We sat down, and she didn't waste a second. "My name is Lauren," she said. "I should have introduced myself properly at the party. But I panicked. I didn't know if you already knew. Or if you were still in the dark." Her voice was shaky, but her eyes were steady, focused. "In the dark about what?" I whispered. She inhaled deeply. "About what Nathan has been planning." Cold tremor ran down my spine. Lauren reached into her purse and pulled out a folded document, several pages stapled together. She hesitated before handing them to me, like she was crossing a line she couldn't uncross. "I shouldn't have this," she said. "It's confidential. Very confidential. If anyone at the company finds out I took it, I'll be fired." I took the papers, my hands trembling. The header read, "Internal Evaluation, Leadership Restructuring. Phase 2 Candidates." My finger slid down the page until I reached the list of names. Nathan's was at the top. But beneath his name, in smaller print, was a section titled Domestic Stability Assessment, and right under that, Marital Dissolution Pending, Increased Likelihood, 87%. My breath caught. Marital dissolution. My marriage. The marriage I thought was just struggling. He had already positioned himself as a man preparing to divorce me. He had planned it. He had measured it. Lauren watched my reaction with genuine sorrow. I found that while reviewing documents for the department director, she explained, Nathan is being considered for a major leadership position. But the board wants executives with clean personal lives. No complications. No scandals. No messy divorces. He has to look like the perfect, stable, in-control candidate. My voice barely worked. So humiliating me at the party was intentional. Lauren nodded, pained. He's trying to build a narrative, she said. He wants the company to believe that you are the problem, that you're dramatic, unpredictable, emotionally fragile. So when he files for divorce, they see him as the calm, stable victim. My stomach twisted so violently I thought I might be sick. He wants to make me look unstable, I whispered. He already has, she said softly. People heard what happened at the party. And he's been telling certain colleagues that he's worried about you, that you're acting unusual lately. My hands curled into fists. The humiliation wasn't even the worst part. It was the betrayal behind it. Lauren leaned in, lowering her voice. There's more. My entire body tensed. He's not just preparing to divorce you. He's preparing to ruin you if you fight back. Financially, legally, socially. I shook my head slowly, unable to process. Why? Why would he do this to me? I've been nothing but supportive. He needs you gone, she interrupted gently. Because of her. That word, her, stabbed deeper than the rest. Who is she? Finally asked. What does she have to do with all this? Lauren hesitated again. Then she said the last thing I ever expected. She's not just his mistress, Emily. She's part of his promotion plan. Her father is on the board. Froze. She's been helping him climb for months. And the board wants him to appear single, responsible, focused, and free of domestic instability. Once the divorce is filed and you're pushed out of the picture, he'll be able to date her openly. It will look natural, convenient, clean. I felt my throat close. Nathan wasn't just betraying me emotionally. He was dismantling my life one calculated step at a time. Lauren placed a gentle hand on mine. I couldn't watch it happen, she said. Not after seeing the look on your face at the party. You didn't deserve any of this. For the first time since last night, tears finally spilled over. Silent, hot, relentless. I wiped them away, humiliated by my own vulnerability. But Lauren shook her head. Don't hide, she whispered. Nathan wants you to fall apart. That's how he wins. The tears stopped instantly. Her words lit something inside me. Not despair, not fear, but resolve. If Nathan thought I was going to crumble, he didn't know me at all. And as I looked down again at the documents in my hand, proof of everything he'd tried to keep hidden, I realized something with absolute cold clarity. Nathan wasn't the only one who could plan. I must have stared at those documents for a full minute before I could even breathe again. It felt like someone had taken my entire marriage, turned it inside out, and placed the ugly truth on my coffee table. Lauren watched me carefully, as if afraid I'd shatter. I know it's a lot, she said softly. But you need to understand the scale of what he's doing. I folded the papers slowly, almost ritualistically, trying to remind myself that touching them didn't make the betrayal less real, but it made it tangible, something I could fight. The moment Lauren left, I sank onto the couch, staring at the wall. My mind replayed everything Nathan had done over the last year. Moments I had brushed off, explained away, forgiven because I thought he was stressed with work. But now, each memory sharpened into clarity. The late nights. The sudden business trips. The way he stopped holding my hand in public. The way conversations with him felt like walking barefoot over glass. Careful, painful, and pointless. And then the last 3 months. All the pieces I hadn't realized were pieces. The day he came home irritated because I'd reorganized the pantry. The night he told me, "You're too emotional lately," when I cried during a movie we used to love. The morning he criticized the way I folded the towels, something he'd never cared about in 10 years of marriage. Tiny cuts, tiny stabs, all disguised as inconveniences or just being honest. At the time I thought, he's tired. He's overwhelmed. I need to be patient. But now, I saw it for exactly what it was. He was building a narrative. He was collecting examples. Creating a version of me that didn't exist, one he could present to the board and eventually to a judge. A version of me that sounded unstable, difficult, dramatic. And the worst part, he had almost succeeded. A sudden rage hit me so hard I stood up without even thinking. I needed air. I needed space. I couldn't breathe inside that living room full of memories and lies. I stepped outside on the porch, gripping the railing until my knuckles turned white. The sun was setting, but all I could see was the moment at the party. Nathan laughing with his colleagues, brushing off my embarrassment as if I were some bothersome stranger he barely tolerated. Like humiliating me was convenient. Because Lauren had been right. If he'd defended me that night. If he had taken my side. If he had protected me, comforted me, shielded me. It would have contradicted the story he was trying to sell. That I was unstable. That our marriage was failing because of me. That he was the responsible one doing his best, with a wife who was apparently falling apart. And suddenly I remembered something. Conversation from 2 months ago. It had slipped from my memory until now. We were in the kitchen cooking dinner. I dropped a glass by accident, and it shattered across the floor. It scared me. I'm not good with sudden noises, and I apologized immediately. Nathan didn't help me clean it, but he did smile. A strange, tight-lipped smile. And he said, "See, this is exactly what I was telling the guys at work. You're so jumpy these days." At the time I laughed it off, assuming he meant it harmlessly. But now I realized something terrifying. He had been testing how I reacted. Recording my reactions in his head. Using my everyday human moments to craft the story he wanted. My chest tightened. This wasn't passive neglect. It was active manipulation. He wasn't trying to support me. He was trying to push me toward a breaking point. And if I had broken, if I had finally snapped at him publicly, if I had yelled, cried, or lost control, he would have won. He would have held it up like evidence. "See, this is what I've been dealing with." I pressed a hand to my mouth, feeling nauseous. I wasn't just married to a man who didn't love me. I was married to a man who was engineering my downfall. And yet, something inside me shifted. For the first time since the party, I didn't feel small. I didn't feel humiliated. Felt awake, cold, focused. If Nathan wanted to play a long-term strategy, then fine. Could play one too. But mine wasn't about winning a promotion or impressing a boardroom. Mine was about reclaiming my dignity, my future, my voice. And I wasn't going to wait quietly in the shadows while he destroyed everything I had built. I walked back inside, grabbed a notebook, and opened it to a blank page. At the top I wrote, "Everything Nathan has done." If he wanted to create a narrative, I would write one too. But mine would be the truth. And the truth was going to destroy him. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, my mind replayed the same image. My husband smiling politely at me, and then smiling wider at someone else. By morning I was exhausted, nauseous, and angry enough to shake. I needed answers. And I finally knew exactly where to look. Marcus kept a small black notebook in his office drawer. He thought I didn't know about it, but of course I did, because every time he lied, he hid something in that drawer. It was his own unconscious habit. I walked into his office, half hoping I was wrong, half praying I was right, because either way, the truth was about to rip my life apart. When I pulled the drawer open, the notebook was right there. I hesitated for only 1 second. Then I opened it. and my heart dropped so fast I felt physically dizzy. Inside, there were pages filled with small notes. Meeting with HR. Schedule rehearsal. Confirm details with her. She arrives at 8. Make sure she's prepared. No surprises. Her. Who the hell was her? My blood ran cold. I flipped through the pages until I landed on a small envelope taped inside the back cover. Photograph slipped out. And that was the moment. The moment everything inside me cracked. It was a picture of Marcus and a woman I had never seen before. They were standing in some office. She was leaning over his desk. And Marcus, he wasn't just smiling. He was glowing. Like the man I married 10 years ago. Like the man he hadn't been with me in a very long time. I felt something deep in my stomach twist painfully. But the worst part wasn't the photo. It was what was written on the back. Friday. She'll be there. Everything has to look real. Don't mess this up. I stared at the words until they blurred. Everything has to look real. Look real like what? Like humiliation. Like betrayal. Like he was destroying me on purpose. Who was this woman? My chest tightened so hard I had to lean on the desk just to breathe. I sat there for several minutes, holding the photo in my shaking hands, trying to piece together a puzzle that was suddenly so much darker than I had imagined. Then I heard it. Soft creak. Someone was in the hallway. Froze. A step. Low. Careful. Like someone approaching without wanting to be noticed. I quickly slipped the notebook back into the drawer and pocketed the photo just as Marcus appeared in the doorway. His eyes narrowed immediately. "What are you doing in here?" he asked. I forced a smile, though my heart was beating so loud I was sure he could hear it. "I was looking for tape," I lied. "I need to wrap a gift." Marcus stared at me for a long moment. Too long. Then he walked in, slid the drawer open, and looked inside. Checking, almost measuring the position of his things. My skin prickled. He knew someone had touched it. But he didn't say anything. He just closed the drawer slowly and turned back to me. His smile didn't reach his eyes. "You know," he said quietly, "sometimes you go places you shouldn't." Every instinct I had screamed run. But I stood still and nodded weakly. He walked out of the office. And the moment he was gone, the fear hit me like a tidal wave. Who was the woman in the photo? What were they planning? And why did Marcus need everything to look real? For the first time in our marriage, I truly didn't feel safe. And I finally understood something. What happened at that company party wasn't an accident. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a moment of bad judgment. It was a warning. And whatever Marcus was preparing, it wasn't over. Not even close. I spent the rest of the day pretending everything was normal. Pretending I didn't know. Pretending I wasn't terrified. Pretending my husband wasn't planning something behind my back. But the truth sat in my pocket like a burning coal, the photo. That woman's face. Marcus's smile. The handwriting on the back. Everything has to look real. By evening, my nerves were stretched so tightly I felt like I might snap. I needed to know who she was. I waited until Marcus went to shower. Then I slipped quietly into his office again. This time not to look for the notebook, but for something else. His laptop. It was password protected, of course. But Marcus was predictable. He used the same password for everything. Our wedding date. The irony made me sick. When the screen unlocked, I opened his email. And there she was. Vanessa. Over a dozen emails exchanged in the last 2 weeks alone. My throat tightened as I clicked one. From Vanessa. Subject. About the plan. He won't suspect anything. You'll have the floor, and I'll be right behind you. Just make sure she's standing close enough when everything happens. Timing is crucial. I reread it 3 times. My hands trembled. Everything happens. What were they planning? I clicked another. From Marcus. She can't find out yet. Not until the event. I want the impact to be final. Final. The word punched me straight in the gut. This wasn't about another woman. This wasn't about an affair. This wasn't about jealousy or insecurity. This was something more deliberate, more calculated, more dangerous. I opened a third email. From Vanessa. Don't worry. I'll handle the legal preparation. You just make sure she looks unstable. Humiliation is necessary. The board needs evidence. My breath caught. Legal preparation. Evidence. The humiliation at the company party suddenly made perfect sense. He wanted people to see me as emotional, as irrational, as hysterical, as a problem. But why? Why would my own husband need legal evidence against me? I didn't understand. Not yet. But I knew I had to get out of that office fast. Marcus would be out of the shower soon. I closed his laptop, returned everything to its place, and walked out as quietly as possible. My legs felt weak, like my knees could buckle at any moment. In the hallway, I heard the shower shut off. I rushed to the kitchen and pretended to pour myself a glass of water. Marcus came in moments later. His hair was wet, his face unreadable, his eyes sharp like he was studying me. "Rough day?" he asked casually. The question sent a chill down my spine. I forced a smile. "Just tired." He stepped closer. Too close. "So strange," he said softly. "You seem on edge. As if something's bothering you." I gripped the counter behind me. "Not at all." He leaned in just enough for me to feel his breath on my cheek. "You know," he whispered, "Saturday is a very important day for me. Plus, I need you to behave. No scenes. No emotional outbursts." Then he added, "I'd hate for people to get the wrong impression about you." Every muscle in my body went rigid. He knew. Or at least, he suspected. Marcus walked past me, humming under his breath, leaving the kitchen as if he hadn't just threatened me in the most elegant, chilling way possible. As soon as he disappeared down the hallway, I let out a shaky exhale. I felt trapped. The walls of the house felt closer. The air felt thinner. And my heart beat so fast it hurt. I pulled the photo out of my pocket and looked at it again. Vanessa. The woman behind all of this. Who was she? A lawyer. An employee. Someone from HR. Someone who hated me. Someone Marcus had promised something to? I didn't know. But I knew one thing with absolute certainty. Marcus and Vanessa were planning something that involved humiliating me, breaking me, and making me look unstable, on Saturday. Whatever was coming. Whatever Marcus needed to look real. Whatever the board needed to see. It was happening in 2 days. And if I didn't figure out the truth before then, I might not survive it. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Marcus's calm smile. Vanessa's name on those emails. The word final echoing in my mind like a warning. By morning, my fear had evolved into something sharper. Determination. If Marcus thought I would just stand there and let him destroy me, he didn't know me at all. I needed answers. Real ones. Not guesses. Not theories. And there was only one person who could help me. Nina. My best friend for over 20 years. The one person who had always known when something was wrong with me, even when I tried to hide it. I grabbed my phone and texted her. "Need to see you. Urgent. Please don't tell anyone." She responded instantly. "Come over." When I arrived, she opened the door and froze. "Oh my God, what happened to you?" she whispered. I didn't even know how I looked. Probably pale, exhausted, shaken. But her expression told me everything. We sat on her couch, and as soon as I opened my mouth to explain, something inside me cracked. I told her everything. The humiliation at the company party. The strange behavior. The notebook missing. The emails. Photo. The woman named Vanessa. Marcus's threatening whisper in the kitchen. Nina didn't interrupt. Not once. She listened with wide eyes and a tightening jaw. When I finished, she took a long breath. "Okay," she said calmly. "First question. Do you think Marcus wants to hurt you physically?" I swallowed. "I don't know. But, the way he looked at me last night. Nina, he hates me. I could feel it." "Then you're not going back there alone tonight," she said immediately. "I have to. He'll notice if I stay away." She ran her hands through her hair. "This is bigger than an affair," she muttered. "Why would he need legal preparation? Why would he need you to look unstable?" I shook my head helplessly. Nina stood abruptly and began pacing. "Okay, let's think logically," she said. "At the company party, who was he trying to impress? Who was watching?" "Everyone," I said. "But especially the directors." Nina stopped walking. "The board." My breath froze. Vanessa's email. "The board needs evidence." "Nina," I whispered. "He must be doing something at the company. Something he needs to protect himself from. Something he needs me out of the way for." Her eyes darkened. "Or," she said quietly, "he needs you to take the fall." I felt like I'd been punched in the chest. Take the fall for what? She didn't answer. Because we both knew. There were too many possibilities. Fraud. Mismanagement. Embezzlement. Corporate misconduct. Something illegal. Something he needed to blame on someone else. On me. "No," I said, shaking my head. "He wouldn't do that." But the truth was painfully clear. He would. He already had. The humiliation was phase 1. Saturday, whatever was planned, was phase 2. Nina sat down again and grabbed my hands. "Listen to me," she said with a firmness I desperately needed. "You're not crazy. You're not imagining things. Something is going on. And we will figure it out." Her words steadied me. Little. I pulled the photo from my bag and handed it to her. Nina examined it closely. "Do you know her?" "No," I said. "I've never seen her before." Nina flipped the picture over. "Everything has to look real." She frowned. "Look real, like staged." My blood went cold. I hadn't thought of that. Staged humiliation. Staged scenes. Staged instability. "What if," Nina said slowly, "Vanessa isn't his lover but his accomplice? Someone hired to help him carry out whatever he's planning." My stomach turned. Made too much sense. Too much. "As long as we don't know who she is," Nina continued, "we're blind. We need to identify her." She grabbed her laptop, pulled up a reverse image search tool, and uploaded the photo. I held my breath. The spinning wheel on the screen might as well have been spinning inside my chest. Finally, the results loaded. And Nina's eyes widened. She turned the laptop so I could see. My heart stopped. The picture matched a professional profile. Businesswoman. Consultant. A specialist in corporate crisis management. Not an affair. Not a lover. Not a random woman. Marcus hired a professional to destroy me. Nina whispered the words I was too stunned to say. "He's building a case. False case. To take you down." I felt the room tilt. The walls close in. My own breath turned shallow. Saturday wasn't just another humiliation. Saturday was the day Marcus planned to ruin me completely. And now, I only had 2 days left to stop him before he took everything from me. Maybe even my freedom. By the time Nina closed her laptop, my hands were shaking so badly I had to press them against my knees just to keep them still. Corporate crisis consultant. That's who Vanessa was. Not a mistress. Not a passing fling. Not some mysterious woman who had seduced my husband. No. Marcus had hired her. Paid her. Brought her into our lives for one purpose. To build a case against me. The humiliation at the party. The manipulation. The staged moments designed to make me look emotional, unstable, reactive. It was all deliberate. Engineered. Orchestrated. My humiliation wasn't an accident. It was the beginning. Foundation. A setup for something far bigger. I sat back on Nina's couch, staring at nothing while everything I had believed about my marriage crumbled into ash. Nina spoke first, her voice firm but gentle. "We need to figure out what he wants. What is the end goal? What does ruining you accomplish for him?" I opened my mouth but nothing came out. Because I didn't know. Control. Revenge. Money. Something tugged at the back of my mind, a memory from weeks ago. Marcus on the phone, whispering in the garage. I had dismissed it at the time. But the way he jumped when he realized I was standing behind him. "What?" Nina asked, noticing my expression. "I remember something," I whispered. "A couple weeks ago. He got a call and took it in the garage." He sounded nervous. When he saw me, he hung up immediately. "Did he say anything to explain it?" I shook my head. "Well, he hadn't." He had changed the subject so quickly I'd forgotten the moment entirely. Now it returned with full force. Nina sighed. "We have to assume he's been planning this for longer than you realized." The room felt smaller, tighter, like the walls themselves were closing around me. I stood abruptly. "I need to go home." "What?" "No." Nina stood too. "Not alone." "I have to," I insisted. "If I suddenly avoid him, he'll know I'm onto something. I need to act normal." Nina grabbed my arm. "Normal? He has a professional strategist helping him destroy your life. You can't fight this alone." Her voice cracked with fear for me. But I shook my head. "This is my life, Nina. My house. My reputation. If he's planning something for Saturday, I need to see what he does leading up to it." Nina stared at me like she was watching someone walk willingly into a burning building. "I'm calling you at midnight," she said firmly. "If you don't answer, I'm coming to your house myself." He nodded. Then she hugged me so tight it almost hurt. "Don't let him get in your head," she whispered. "Don't let him twist things. Remember, you're seeing clearly now." I didn't feel clear. I felt like I was stepping into a nightmare. The drive home felt endless. Every red light was a countdown. Every turn of the wheel pushed me closer to the man I now realized I didn't know at all. When I pulled into the driveway, Marcus's car was already there. He was home. My heart thudded painfully in my chest. I sat in the car for nearly a minute, breathing slowly, preparing myself. Then I walked inside. Marcus was in the kitchen, reading something on his tablet. He looked up when he heard me. "There you are," he said casually. "Where'd you go?" His tone was controlled. Smooth. A practiced calm I now recognized as strategic. "I visited Nina," I said lightly. "We needed to catch up." He watched me with a little too much interest. I see." His eyes lingered on my face a beat too long. Then he set down the tablet. "You know," he said slowly, "you've been tense lately." My breath stopped. There it was again. The narrative. The setup. The implication that I was unstable. "Long week," I replied, keeping my voice steady. He nodded slowly, almost thoughtfully. Then he said something that sent a chill through my entire body. "You should rest. Big weekend ahead." My pulse spiked. "What do you mean by that?" He smiled. A cold, rehearsed smile that didn't reach his eyes. "You'll see." Then he picked up his tablet and walked out of the room. Just like that. No explanation. No details. No hint of emotion. I stood frozen in the middle of the kitchen, my mind racing. Big weekend ahead. Saturday. Whatever he was planning, it was close. Too close. And whatever I thought I knew about the danger I was in, I realized something terrifying. I still didn't know the full story. Whatever Marcus was preparing for Saturday, he had only shown me the surface. And the truth beneath it was going to be far, far worse. Saturday arrived with a heaviness that sat in my chest from the moment I opened my eyes. A strange, unsettling silence filled the house. No footsteps, no humming, no clatter in the kitchen. Marcus was already awake, waiting, preparing. I moved through the morning like a shadow, checking my phone every few minutes, waiting for Nina's message. 9:12 a.m. Are you okay? 9:13 a.m. Call me when you can. I typed a reply but didn't send it. I didn't want anything showing on my screen if Marcus decided to look over my shoulder, which he had done more than once these past few weeks. By noon, I still had no idea what Marcus's so-called big weekend plan was. All I knew was that it involved me, and not in a way I wanted to imagine. At 12:47 p.m., he finally called up the stairs. "Emily, we need to leave soon." "Leave?" I repeated, coming down slowly. "Where are we going?" He was wearing a crisp suit, polished shoes. He looked like a man ready to present something or someone. "You'll see," he said with that same chilling calm. I followed him outside, heart pounding, memorizing every detail of the neighborhood as though I might never see it again. He drove. I watched his hands on the wheel, perfectly steady. No tension. No hesitation. He knew exactly what he was doing. But I didn't. We pulled into the parking lot of a place I knew too well. The regional courthouse. My stomach dropped. "Marcus, what is this?" He turned to me with a look that made my blood run cold. "It's time," he said, "for everything to be put on record." He got out of the car. I didn't. I couldn't move. Record what? What lies had he planned? What narrative had Vanessa helped him create? He walked around and opened my door. "Emily, don't make a scene." The words were sharp, laced with warning. I stepped out, legs trembling. Inside the courthouse, everything smelled of old paper and cold air. Marcus led me down a hallway with confident, purposeful strides. He stopped at a private consultation room. A woman stepped out. Vanessa. Seeing her again made bile rise in my throat. She greeted Marcus with a handshake far too familiar. Then she looked at me. "Emily," she said smoothly. "Shall we begin?" "Begin what?" Before I could speak, Marcus slid a stack of papers across the table toward me. Neatly arranged. A legal document. Petition. My breath caught. He was filing for divorce. But that wasn't the worst part. The accusations, claims, the outright lies filling the pages. Instability, emotional volatility, episodes of aggression, verbal outbursts witnessed by colleagues, a concerning decline in mental health. Each line stabbed deeper than the last. He wasn't just divorcing me. He was destroying me. Every humiliation at the party, every orchestrated moment, every overwhelmed reaction he had forced out of me. It was all here, twisted, weaponized, turned into a record that made him look like a long-suffering husband. And me. Problem to remove. I felt the room spin. "This is insane," I whispered. "None of this is real." "It doesn't matter what's real," Vanessa replied calmly. "It matters what can be documented." Marcus folded his hands, expression blank. "I didn't want it to come to this," he said softly, as though he were the victim. "But your behavior left me no choice." Crack formed inside me. A small one at first. Then it split wider and wider until there was nothing left holding me together. I took a slow breath. Another. Another. Then I did something none of them expected. I laughed. Softly at first. Then harder. Marcus stiffened. "What's funny?" I wiped a tear from my cheek. "You think you've won," I said quietly. "But you forgot one thing." He frowned. "What?" I leaned forward. "I'm not the one being investigated." Confusion flickered across both of their faces. Investigated. Because while Marcus and Vanessa were busy crafting fake narratives, Nina had been doing something else. Something smart. Something important. And just as Marcus opened his mouth to question me again, my phone buzzed. A message from Nina lit up the screen. "It's done. Come outside." My heart steadied. My spine straightened. For the first time in months, I felt control flood back into my body. Understood. "No more surprises today," Marcus said bitterly. I looked him dead in the eyes. "Oh, there will be. Just not for me." I walked out of that room with more strength than I ever knew I could feel. Past the security desk, through the courthouse doors, into the sunlight. And there, waiting just outside, was Nina. With two people I never expected to see. A private investigator. And a fraud attorney. Both holding files. Both looking straight at me. Both ready to fight. For me. Not for Marcus. Because the truth was finally on my side. And the war he thought he'd win easily. It was only just beginning. If you made it to the end of this story, don't leave just yet. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and tell me in the comments where in the world you're watching from. Your support helps these real stories reach more people, and you won't want to miss what comes next.